Not picking me up.
All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another Midwest Mics. I'm Gary.
This is Austin.
And like I said, we are Midwest Mics, and we're coming back at you with another show. It's been about, a week, 10 days since we did a show. Kind of took some time off for the holidays. Enjoyed some time with our family. Did you have a good holiday, Christmas and New Year's?
Well, yeah, it was good. I don't know how you say enjoy in time with your family. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was really good. No, it was good. Yeah, it was really nice. Got away, went to Colorado for a little bit, flew back in. And then New Year's was good, hung out with the boys. So, yeah, it was great. It's a busy time, and now it's over. It's like everything's kind of quieted down a little bit. But we got some good sports stuff going on.
Yeah, we do. Ton of stuff to talk about. I had a good holiday too. Thanks for asking. Got to spend a little time.
You said you had a good holiday when you opened the show.
Yeah. Got to spend a little time with, my mom down south, so it was all good. But, anyway, we got our guest here tonight making his podcast debut, Chip Ufford. You guys have heard us mention him on the show before. He helped coach our freshman team with Coach Hare this year, freshman football. He's also the head wrestling coach and head softball coach at Shawnee Mission East. He's been there for 15 years. This will be his 5th year as the Shawnee Mission East head softball coach. His 10th year as a head wrestling coach. He had 9 years previous, stepped away from wrestling for a couple years and is now back. And also spent 3 years way back as an assistant coach, kind of learning the deal and figuring out what was going on. He was the defensive coordinator for the varsity football team previously to the coaching shift. When all that happened, he had actually decided to step away. Just like we've talked about on the show, some coaches don't fit with each other. It's not a great fit, so he had decided to step away. After the change kind of finished happening, we ended up with Hoover. He decided to come back and help out with the freshmen. Did a great job with those guys. So, Coach Ufford, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So let's just kind of start off talking about, you've been at Shawnee Mission East 15 years, teaching and coaching. Why don't you talk about some of your favorite experiences from that time, football, wrestling, and softball?
Okay, we'll start with football. Back when I first started as a defensive coordinator, we were absolutely awful. We struggled to have a winning record, and defense was on the field the entire game because our offense was not on the field the entire game, and it couldn't score points. So that doesn't bode well for any defense to be on the field the entire game. We had some good players defensively. I was young as a coordinator. I made a lot of young mistakes, but I learned from those mistakes and moved forward. And then we had a coaching shift to Chip Sherman, who came in, and he brought a winning attitude. He had a good resume from Missouri. Had won multiple state titles in Missouri, and so a good pedigree, and guys kind of bought into what he was selling. And we got some guys in that typically wouldn't come to Shawnee Mission East. They started coming to Shawnee Mission East. They picked between Rockhurst and Miege, and they started coming to Shawnee Mission East. And so we got some kids that maybe we wouldn't get, and we got it turned. His first year there was a losing season. I think we were 3-6 that year. But the next year, I think we were over 500. Won a playoff game. The next year, even better. And his last season there, we were 8-2. And I was a defensive coordinator on all those staffs. So it was good to kind of see the program turned in the right direction. It was good to compete for some Fire League championships and compete in the state and win some playoff games. Then Delaney walked in. Sherman leaves. Delaney comes in, brings a new system. An upbeat, more, I would say, is a younger system, a younger philosophy. With Sherman, we were practicing 3+ hours a day. Delaney, he kind of laughed at that and smiled at that and said, we're not going to be practicing 3+ hours a day. We're going to be at 2 hours, 2:15 at the most. And I believe in making sure the defense is taken care of with athletes. Like I'm going to make sure my guys, my dudes, are on defense because defense wins championships. And so our first year, we have a lot of tight games, a lot of close games. And we end up winning those games. We had a couple, maybe one loss, I think Free State there in the regular season. But we come out of the east side of the state, and we play for a state championship and get beat by Derby by 7 points, who is a high-power offense, and it was a great state championship game. And the next year, we go all the way again to the state championship game. We end up winning it. So it was a good shift in head coaching, good shift in philosophy. It fit Shawnee Mission East, and it was a good opportunity for me as a football coach. That's football. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So
we've talked about on the show how 10, 12 years ago, Shawnee Mission East was not good at football. I mean,
doormat. We are the doormat of the league. Everybody scheduled us for their homecoming. Absolutely.
Country Club High School.
Yes.
I've heard that.
So what was the big thing? I guess you said Chip Sherman came in with a winning attitude that kind of started to flip that. What was some other things that he did you think that helped change the culture?
I think one of the things he taught the guys to do is, and not something that I didn't teach because I was a weights coach at the time, but hard work in the weight room, but I think the guys just kind of bought into, hey, this guy, he has won multiple state championships at Platte County. This guy must know what he's talking about, right? They drink the Kool-Aid. Doesn't mean his X's and O's were great. Doesn't mean, offensively, I think he was a lot better than the offensive system that we had in there prior. Because the offensive coach we had in there, I won't mention any names, but he every week would say, "Hey, I saw this new play on this weekend in college football. Let's install it." And every week things were changing in the offense, so there was no consistency in the offense. It didn't work, and he was trying to find ways for it to work, and it just was not working. And so at least Sherman had an offensive system and philosophy. He was a running back in college, and he was. He had a decent offensive mind. He brought just little simple things that helped us offensively stay on the field and score points. And so you do that, and you put that with the defense. It's already been pretty good. So even though we were awful record-wise. Defensively, we were always top 3, top 5 in the league, total defense. So our defense was okay. I was a defensive coordinator. We had a good defensive staff. We were competing. We just needed offense to couple with that. So there's 3 phases in the game: offense, defense, and special teams. And if you can be really good in at least 2 of them, you're going to put yourself in a position to win ball games. And that's what we did with Sherman.
Yeah, that's great. Obviously, I came in with Delaney. I feel like Delaney's flexbone offense was probably a little more defensive friendly because the whole mentality was to eat up the clock and score points.
Yeah.
Not just eat up the clock and waste a bunch of time, but it ate up the clock and scored points. Or it was a quick strike offense and would score in 1 or 2 plays when we had guys that could go, guys that were fast.
Yeah.
When you, like you said, when you already have a good defensive philosophy established, and then, you made some changes with Sherman there that kind of got you guys to be a good program in Kansas City, and then, Delaney comes in a little even more defensive-friendly offense, and you guys go to back-to-back state championships, winning one of them, the first one and only one in school history.
Correct. And, Delaney's a great defensive mind. Although he brought the flex bone. He's really good at calling offense in the flex bone. He was a linebacker in college. So defense was kind of one of his babies. He loved defense. So we would always bounce ideas off of one another. And I grew as a defensive coach once he came in as head coach. I think I definitely learned a lot from him. And our defenses got better once he arrived.
Yeah. And I know this year, even though you weren't personally coaching the varsity guys, still a lot of your imprint was on those guys because we were a very senior-heavy team on defense. And, you had taught those guys really since they were freshmen, a lot of them, sophomores. PJ and Ashton and Tyler and J-Mo and all those guys, still kind of had your imprint and things you had taught them.
Absolutely.
So, that helped us this year.
It was fun to watch them compete. Absolutely.
Yeah. And this year, like I said, I've talked about it on the show as a coach. Sometimes you just, when a new head coach gets hired in high school, sometimes it's just better to take a step away and not, hey, I'm going to butt my head against this wall, even though I know I'm not going to get along with this guy. So you decided to take a step back and then ended up helping with our freshmen. How'd you enjoy doing that with Coach Hare and Coach Gordon down there?
So helped call the defense with Coach Hare and Coach Gordon. Hare being the head basketball coach, Gordon being the head baseball coach, and I'm the head wrestling and softball coach. You got a lot of head coaches there at the freshman level, and so they're definitely in good hands. And I think the freshman team they learned more about defense this year than any other year they've been involved in any other freshman program. Because when I got freshman, it didn't seem like you guys concentrated a whole lot on defense when Coach Hare was a head freshman coach. I mean, those guys knew a lot about offense, but defense, they when I got them, they needed a lot of work defensively. Now, the varsity coaches, JV coaches will be getting kids who know the system, who've been coached in defense and know how to play the game defensively. So you guys are in good hands.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell people all the time, like, we had the best freshman staff in the state of Kansas. I mean, when you have 3 head coaches of other sports, as your freshman staff, and then you guys had a couple other guys there, Coach Dre and Coach Jerry, helping you guys out. But, I mean, when you have 3 other head coaches for other sports, I mean, that's phenomenal that you guys can kind of put your egos aside and say, yeah, you know what, this is what this school needs, and make it more about the kids and more about the community than just about you. So,
sure.
I mean, that's awesome.
Sure. We had a lot of fun. Went 7-2, I think, on the season, and had a game where we were down with 4 minutes left of the game. I think we were down 2 touchdowns, and we go on to score like 26 unanswered points.
Yeah,
it was crazy. What the
in
most
4
points?
Minutes?
Yeah, like 4 minutes left in the game.
Right.
I just started blitzing. I said, "Screw it! I'm gonna start bringing heat." And what do you know? They have to punt it. We return it back. We score, and then I keep bringing heat. They turn it over in their end zone. We score. And it's before you know it, we're winning the game, and we were down by 2 touchdowns. I think it was ridiculous. 2 touchdowns, 4 minutes left in the game.
I mean, and especially in a freshman game.
This game's over. Yeah. There's no way. But we freaking ended up pulling it out. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's funny. We were talking about it earlier before the show. We were talking about games where at halftime you're up by 2 scores or whatever. Those kids at 4 minutes left, they're probably like, man, we're good to go. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like, you guys start blitzing, like, oh, okay. Yeah. They didn't even know what to do.
Yeah, so, I mean, I remember Coach Hare, he would always text the big group text after the games. And when he was sending those texts about how you guys came back, I mean, that's just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
For you guys. And, I mean.
And the next day I saw an ESPN ticker, best comeback of all time. Shot to Mission East freshman.
Wow. With the all-star coaching staff.
Yeah. I wish I could have got a screenshot of that, man.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Top 10.
Yeah. Top all-time comeback in freshman football history, man.
Yeah.
That's funny.
There it is.
Yeah. So, like we were talking about earlier, it seems like the biggest thing when it comes to either turning around a football program is culture. And it's like it feels like we like any coach you've ever talked to about whether it's a winning team or a losing team. Usually, the transition that goes from losing to winning is always starts with culture. It doesn't even start with getting better athletes. It just starts with buying in. And it's just crazy how that mentality you switch it, and all of a sudden you can take the same kids and start winning games.
And
with
it's
them.
easier to buy in when the guy comes with a pedigree of winning state championships. Or, in Delaney's case, he had been an OC on a team who had won multiple state championships. The blueprint was there. The pedigree, the resume was there. It's easier to buy into that versus not having that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Definitely, I mean, especially, I think kids now, they know, they watch ESPN, they see all these coaches with the resumes, and they know who's successful and who's not. I mean, there's definitely a blueprint to getting a successful team. And, those guys that have that pedigree, I mean, when I came to East, I did not have that winning pedigree, hadn't coached very many, at very many places that was a winning program, but some of the things that I had been trying to teach and trying to get across were the same things that were being taught at East. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, well, just the difference to me, everybody asks me, the difference is the kids at East, if I tell them to run into that wall because it's going to make them better, they're going to do it. Whereas other places I've been, I tell them to run into that wall, they look at me like I'm crazy. You know,